Go.
Good evening. My name is Specialist Urlacher, and today we're going to be going over practicing noise, light, and litter discipline. Before we begin the class, I'd like to take care of some admin actions. For this class, the overall risk assessment is low. Some environmental considerations is we're Army Green policy: reduce, reuse, recycle. We'll do a police call later on to make sure we pick up all our trash, anything we leave behind. Physical security. In case of an active shooter, we will run, then hide. If we can not do any of that or get out of the way, we will fight if it comes to that. Before we begin the class, I'd like to go over some individual PCC and PCCIs. For this class, you will need some ID cards, your ID tags, a water source, a pencil, and some paper. Alrighty. Some deliberate risk assessment for this class would be, we happen to have a dog running around. Before we start the class, I'll make sure the dog's outside so we don't have a trip hazard. Kids' toys, make sure all the kids' toys are put away so we don't have any trip hazards walking around. Backpacks, random household items, make sure the house is cleaned up and tidy. Make sure we put everything away. Ceiling fan, we have a ceiling fan in the house. Make sure it's turned off and the training area is moved away from the ceiling fan so we don't have a height clearance issue. And electrocution. Make sure all the outlet covers are covered. Make sure we don't put anything unnecessary into the outlet covers so we don't electrocute ourselves. Alrighty. Conditions. You are a member of a mounted or dismounted element conducting a tactical mission and have been directed to comply with noise, light, and litter discipline. Enemy elements in your area of operation. Some iterations of this task should be performed in Mach 4. Obviously, we don't have any Mach gear, so we'll do it notionally. Standards. Prevent enemy from locating your element by exercising noise, light, and litter discipline at all times. And what's our overall risk assessment? Low. Alrighty, before I begin the class, I'm going to do an inspection of PCCs and PCIs. Make sure we have everything of our ID cards, ID tags, water source, pencil, and paper. If you want to form up, we'll do that right now. Alrighty, very good. Alright, to exercise noise discipline. You want to avoid all unnecessary vehicle and foot movement. Don't be moving around any vehicles that you don't need to be. Secure any loose metal parts with tape or other materials as needed. For example, weapon slings, canteen cups, ID tags. Tape your ID tags so they don't cling together and make cling noise. Note, do not obstruct the moving parts of a weapon. So don't put your fingers in the ejection port and cut off your finger or cause brass from ejecting properly. Avoid all unnecessary talk. Don't be chit-chatting with your buddy about whatever happened yesterday. If it's not important to the mission and severely needed to know about, don't talk. Use radio when necessary. Only use the radio when you have pertinent information that needs to go out and you need it done in a timely manner. Otherwise, don't use it. And if you need to use the radio, make sure it's down low enough that only you can hear it and your buddy next to you can't, so the enemy cannot hear it at all. Use of vehicle techniques to communicate. Use of visual techniques to communicate. So when you're doing squad movement drills, just a general come here, or ceasefire, just your general everyday hand movements. Alrighty, exercise light discipline. Do not smoke, because if you smoke, you got your little red ember. You can see that for quite a ways. Don't use any white light. White light's strictly prohibited. If you need to use a flashlight by any means, make sure you have a red lens, because red lens is not seen as far, so the enemy is a lot less likely to detect it. Also, smoking also could be smelled by the enemy if they're close by. Make sure you cover and blacken anything that reflects light. So if you're next to a vehicle, make sure you cover it with tree brush or leaves, or you got shiny parts on your weapon, make sure you blacken it so it doesn't reflect off of the moonlight or sunlight. And when you're concealing vehicles, make sure you conceal vehicles with all natural vegetation, like tree brushes, tree branches, leaves, anything you can find. Exercise litter discipline. Establish litter collection point. Wherever you're going to put trash, put it in one certain area in a bag. Make sure you don't leave any laying around. Because if you leave stuff laying around, the enemy can come along later and track you, know that you've been there, and so forth, so they can keep just following you down the road. Make sure before you leave a position, make sure you do a police call. Hand-to-hand technique is best. So you walk along, make sure you pick up any unnatural debris that's been left behind by humans. And when you're done, make sure you pick up all trash and put it in one point and take it with you. Alright, at this point in time, we're going to go on evaluation stage. A little bit of back brief. Anybody have any questions? Alright, we're going to evaluate each other now. So what I'm going to have you guys do is we're going to conduct squad movement drills, while at the same time as we're going to be practicing noise, light, and litter discipline. So I better not be hearing any talking or anything like that. No leaving around trash. And obviously it's daylight, so it's going to be harder to detect light. But don't be shining any phones, flashlights, or anything like that. Make sure we move in a safe manner, no running. If unnecessary, watch where you put your foot. Don't put your foot in a hole. Don't trip. If you happen to get an injury, we'll call a medic. And make sure we don't damage any equipment. And if we happen to break or damage any equipment, make sure you let me know ASAP, and we'll get this show on the road. Alright, you may begin. Alrighty, good job. Alright, you guys did a pretty good job at light discipline and litter discipline, but I did hear you guys talk a little bit. That was unnecessary. We don't need to talk about whatever happened at Chow Hall, anything like that. So you guys get a go for light and litter discipline, but a no go on noise. Alright, and that concludes my class. I'll do a few little admin portions. Alright, that concludes my paperwork. At this time, we're gonna go conduct a police call. Make sure we pick up all trash, just like we did in the actual class. Make sure we don't leave anything laying behind. And we're also green armies because we want to recycle everything. So reduce, reuse, recycle. Make sure we put it in proper bins. You may conduct that now. Awesome. Did we have any damage to equipment or any injuries? No? Good. Alright, that concludes my class. I request to close out the training site.